It's the year 750 CE. The royal Umayyad palace in Damascus, once a symbol of power and magnificence, is drenched with blood. Abbasids, who were allies, have turned into uninterrupted adversaries, overthrowing the caliphate and executing nearly every member of the Umayyad dynasty. Amid this chaos, a young prince, barely 20 years old, managed to escape. His name is Abdul Rahman. The Abbasids try to follow him relentlessly to eradicate the last traces of the Umayyad lineage. Abdul Rahman is racing through the Syrian desert, in the dark, with his heart pounding with fear. His loyal servants urge him to run faster as the Abbasid soldiers come nearer. The Euphrates River is flowing ahead, and with no time to hesitate, the young boy plunges into the river, his body fighting the current as arrows whistle past him. And finally, against all these odds, he emerges on the other side of the river, gasping for breath, but fortunately alive. Abdul Rahman was an escapee, but that night a leader was born who would one day carve out a whole new empire in the far-off land of Al-Andalus. Umayyad Caliphate at its peak was one of the most powerful empires in history. It was established in 661 CE, stretching from the Iberian Peninsula in the west to the Indus River in the east, including vast territories across 3 continents. Umayyads were well known for their cultural advancements, efficiency in administration, and architectural wonders such as the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Arabic was their administrative language, and they minted the first Islamic coins, bringing together the empire both culturally and economically. Despite their marvelous achievements, they had to face certain challenges due to their policies, as some people think that those policies favor Arab elites over non-Arab Muslims. This discontent sowed the seeds of rebellion, leading up to the Abbasid Revolution. Later, in 750 CE, the Abbasids claimed descent from the uncle of Prophet Muhammad S.A.W. and overthrew Umayyads in a bloody coup. Dinner of death tempted the nobles of Umayyad under the guise of peace talk and left them to be massacred. The Abbasids announced their caliphate in Baghdad. They erased all the traces of the Umayyad Caliphate from Baghdad except for one, Abdul Rahman. The young prince's escape wasn't just a flight from death, but a journey of resilience that would eventually shape the course of history. As the Abbasid forces swept through Syria, Abdul Rahman's path to survival was filled with danger. The Euphrates River became a symbol of his determination. With arrows slicing through the air and soldiers closing in, Abdul Rahman dove into the water. His survival was nothing short of a miracle. It was a testament to his willpower and the divine destiny that seemed to protect him. As he passed over the vast Syrian deserts, a bunch of loyal supporters were with Abdul Rahman, upon whom he relied. These were the ones who risked their lives to protect the last survivor of the Umayyads. Each shadow became a potential threat, and every step was a gamble between life and death. Despite all the struggles, it was Abdul Rahman's charisma that kept all his followers united, though they were only a bunch. As he reached North Africa, he found shelter under his maternal uncle, who was among the Berber tribes. There, the prince began transforming into a leader. The Berbers were disappointed by the Abbasid Caliphate, but they had already recognized Abdul Rahman's potential, so they offered him their support. Abdul Rahman's life was more than just an escape for survival, a step towards the establishment of a legacy. From the deserts of Syria to northern Africa, each step of his journey transformed him into a leader who would one day reach Al-Andalus and establish a new empire. At that time, no one knew this young refugee would reignite the Umayyad dynasty in a foreign land. The Berber tribes were well known for their independence and resilience. There, Abdul Rahman found more than a haven. a few allies who shared the same hatred for Abbasids as him. The new caliphate oppressed these tribes, so they saw Abdul Rahman as a glimmer of hope and a potential leader who could challenge Abbasid supremacy. The charisma of Abdul Rahman played a pivotal role in strengthening these alliances. Legends described his ability to inspire devotion even in the most difficult circumstances. One such incident was when, during a tribal meeting, Abdul Rahman's passionate call for togetherness moved hardened tribal leaders to tears. His people saw in him far more than merely a survivor, a visionary leader with the courage to rebuild what had been crumbled. If you go through the maps of his era, you can find out his extraordinary journey across hostile lands. From Syria to North Africa, every mile of land underlines his conviction to regain the legacy of his ancestors. Besides refuge, Berbers provided Abdul Rahman with the resources and manpower that were needed to strategize his next step. They were his first allies in a plan that seemed fearless. The plan was to sail across the Mediterranean Sea and establish a new Umayyad empire in Al-Andalus. His time with the Berbers was nothing less than a transformation. It was there that the seeds of the Andalusian Umayyad dynasty were sown, and that soil was proven to be fertile for the dynasty. Abdul Rahman's journey across the Mediterranean was a jump into a land that was filled with chaos and opportunity. In the 8th century, the Iberian Peninsula was a fractured montage of power struggles. The Muslim groups that were once united under the umbrella of Umayyad had broken into tiny fragments, each fighting for control. The leadership was weak, and the region was on the brink of collapse. For a determined leader like Abdul Rahman, this was a land that was ready to be claimed. As Abdul Rahman set foot in Al-Andalus, he quickly realized that only brute force wouldn't suffice. The region's internal conflicts demand a blend of diplomacy and strategic acumen. He started to reach out to disillusioned groups and offered them not only a new ruler, but a vision of stability and prosperity. He was the only survivor of the Umayyads, which gave him credibility, and his charisma won over the hearts of millions. On the other hand, the military strategy played an important role. Besides being a skilled diplomat, the prince was also a tactician. At first, he identified the power players among the groups, and then he neutralized possible threats by either establishing alliances or defeating them on the battlefield. Soon, his army, that was bolstered by the Berbers and local supporters, became an intimidating force. Among his remarkable victories, one was the Battle of Al-Musara, where Abdul Rahman defeated Yusuf al-Fihri, who was a key rival. This important victory strengthened his power and marked the start of a whole new era in Al-Andalus. The rise in Al-Andalus wasn't just about regaining the throne, but about uniting a land with the vision of maintaining power and prosperity. The foundations of the Andalusian Umayyad dynasty were laid, and the refugee prince was now the leader of the legend. The young prince's achievements in Al-Andalus weren't an end to his struggles. Instead, they were just the beginning of his real test, a coalition of power in a land that was filled with conflicts. After the defeat of Yusuf al-Fihri, Abdul Rahman shifted all his focus to Cordoba, which was the center of the Iberian Peninsula and the key to uniting this shattered territory. During the 8th century, Cordoba was a vibrant but chaotic city. Its strategic location was a thing that made it important for any ruler who wanted to achieve power and dominance. The visionary leader, Abdul Rahman, recognized the importance of this place. He already knew that gaining power in Cordoba was essential, not only for its resources, but also in terms of its symbolic importance as a center of governance and culture. However, the city was fraught with dissent, with many groups fighting to gain power. Abdul Rahman was a strategic master. He was a man with a strong vision, so he didn't simply rely on his military force, but applied a mix of alliances, diplomacy, and measured displays of strength. He reached out to the local leaders and offered them positions in exchange for their loyalty. With the help of this strategy, he was able to put an end to the dispute without any unnecessary fights or bloodshed. And for the factions who resisted against him, Abdul Rahman's stance was immediate and decisive. Battles, like those against the remaining rebel groups, underline his ability to merge strategic brilliance with an unyielding resolve. Near the end of 756 CE, the young fugitive prince of the Umayyads declared himself as the Emir of Cordoba. Under his government, Cordoba began to transform. From a city of chaos, it became a symbol of prosperity and stability. Abdul Rahman laid the strong foundations of what is going to become one of the most eminent eras in the history of Islamic world. The great Emirates of Cordoba wasn't just a political entity, but it was proof of the illusion of a man who rose from exile to lay down an enduring legacy. Abdul Rahman's journey from Syria to Al-Andalus is nothing less than a miracle. It's hard to believe how a young boy who escaped death and traveled across different continents built his empire on land that he had never seen before in his life. His journey across the deserts of Syria to the city of Al-Andalus wasn't just about survival, but regaining the lost legacy of his ancestors. He worked hard with exceptional strategies and made his vision come true. He defeated his rivals and proclaimed himself as an emir of Cordoba. Abdul Rahman preserved the lineage of his forefathers and laid the foundation of another remarkable era in the history of Europe. Abdul Rahman had laid the groundwork for his dream, a united Al-Andalus, a country that will thrive with culture, power, and progress. But dreams as big as his don't come without enemies. His rise to power had already agitated many, and whispers of rebellion were spreading like wildfire. Within the chambers of Cordoba and beyond, plans were being made, swords sharpened, and alliances grouped together with one aim: to bring him down. Will Abdul Rahman's vision withstand the storms gathering? Can a fugitive-turned leader overcome rivals bent on his destruction, or will the fragile empire he built crumble under the weight of ambition and betrayal? As the tension builds, the fate of Al-Andalus is on a knife's edge. The question arises: will Abdul Rahman's brilliance and resilience see him through, or will history take a darker turn?